Hi guys, it's Sammy. Welcome back to my channel. Start off by saying I'm sorry I've been kind of MIA for the last couple of weeks. Things have just been kind of crazy. I know that's kind of weird to say because I mean I'm not really doing much, but I graduated college. Yay! I don't know how this happened. I don't understand. It's been a complete whirlwind. But I graduated college, and kind of like once I finished classes, I kind of just got into the state where I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing next. Like usually, like even if I don't have a job over the summer, an internship or something, I know I'm going back to school in the fall. There's something I have in my future, but for the first time in my life, I don't know what I'm doing. And wow, I'm tearing up because I haven't really said that out loud, but this is kind of overly emotional for what this video is supposed to be, but that's just kind of an explanation of where I've been. I've just been kind of silently freaking out because I'm trying to line up a job offer, and if you haven't noticed, it's not a great time to be looking for a full-time job. So I've kind of been freaking out about that, so I've not been in the great headspace. But I wouldn't say I haven't even been in a great headspace. I've just been kind of freaking out. I guess that's not being in not a great headspace, but here I am back in front of my lovely bookshelves, which I've started to redecorate a little bit. Well, like the leaves, not the actual design of my bookshelves, but I do plan on doing something really fun with them soon, and I plan on filming it, and I'm really excited about doing that. Okay, today's video, I'm sorry, that was kind of long-winded. Today's video is going to be all about how I tab my books. I don't do very much, but I think it's always interesting to see how other people tab their books, even if you don't want to tab yourself, or you already have a tabbing method that works well for you. I figured I'd just give a little insight into what I do, so that's what I'm going to talk about now. I got into tabbing books pretty much exactly when I started really reading again, and when I started this channel, because I wanted to initially make a lot of reviews about the books I was reading and have a lot to talk about. Never really got into reviewing books, and I don't think I'm very good at it, so I don't do it often unless it's for like a lesser known book, but that was originally why I started tabbing. And when I started tabbing, I didn't really have much of a system to it. So this is kind of like what my books originally used to look like when I was tabbing. This is A Quarter Winged in Ruin, and you see that there is a bunch of different colors here, but that's literally just because I ran out of colors when I was tabbing this book. And the way I would do it is I would just tab my favorite quotes, favorite scenes, anything I wanted to ever reread or talk about. But the problem with this was that I literally had no idea what these tabs were. Now for a book like this, I kind of have a lot of it memorized, but overall, like in any other book that I've done this for, like say Unravel Me, which I don't know as well as like the Court of Thorns and Roses series, I couldn't tell you what a single one of these tabs means. And it's still fun to go back and flip through them when I'm like feeling nostalgic or I want to read like a scene from this book without rereading the whole book. I like having these tabs, but the problem is that if I'm flipping to a random tab, is it going to be like a good quote? Is it going to be a favorite scene? What is it going to be? I have no idea. So at the beginning of this year, I kind of made a challenge, not really a challenge for myself, but I wanted to get better at even just organizing how I tab my books, which even though I don't do reviews, I feel like it's good for me to have like these notes to go back on if I'm ever want to recommend this book. I can talk about the things I didn't like and I talk about the things I liked in a more concise way, because I know I have had I've had problems with that in the past, with not really explaining why I like a book or why I didn't like a book or what was in a book that I didn't really like. So because of that, I kind of came up with a little rating system, which I put in a planner that I use to track my reading. I made a list of different color stickies and what they would correlate to in my books. So like I said, this is what my tabs used to look like. Nothing, meant nothing to me. And this is what they look like now. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different colors here, and they all correlate to different things that happen in this book. So I used to use stickies like this. These are the post-it note flags thing. As you can see, they're meant to be written on. They're not opaque, which wasn't always my favorite because I would kind of tab over sometimes like the words that I wanted to reread, and it was kind of a pain because I'd have to like peel it up to reread it. But now I use these. Which is a set of colors, and I'm thinking about getting maybe a bigger set of colors, and then I guess I kind of have to come up with like new colors to have to go with what each sticky means. But I really like these. These are from Amazon. I'm not sure the brand, but I'll try to link them down below for you guys. But they're kind of, if you can notice, they're opaque, so when I put a sticky down in a book, I will show you, you can still read the words that are underneath it, which is super helpful, and I'd highly recommend that to anyone because that was always a problem I had, and I highly recommend getting the opaque ones. Okay, so you see all this, you see all these different colors, so what do they mean and how does that help me? So like I said, I noticed when I was doing my old sticky note method that I had no idea if this was like, was this a romantic scene? Was this like a turning point in a relationship? Was this a really good quote? Was this like a plot twist I didn't see coming that I'd love to talk about in any sort of wrap up? Was this something that I thought was kind of like bad or problematic? Or was this something that, if it was mostly a series, is this something I want to come look back on in future books or maybe at the end of this book to kind of just get my thoughts together? So what I ended up setting on was, obviously I had 5 different colors here. Like I said, I might come up with more if I ever switch to more colors or anything, but how I did it was these pink stickies that I have in here, which you can see a decent bit of in this book, was any sort of romance, ship, or angst. So this is any sort of scenes I want to reread because they're really cute or they're kind of like a turning point in a relationship. Sometimes I would kind of overlap quotes with this, so if the quote was like more romantic centered, I'd give it like a pink tab. And this is oftentimes the stuff that if I want to reread a book, I'm probably going to go back to like sort of the romantic scenes to kind of like get those feels again, or especially if I'm going into a next book in the series and I want to reread like everything about the couple. That's usually what I'm doing, and that's really helpful because especially in like ACOTAR and stuff, I wish I would have been able to do this because that's usually what I'm going back and reading, like in ACOMAF. Like if I hadn't memorized like all the chapters and what happens in them, I could use these sticky tabs and be able to go back to those romantic moments. Okay, so that's pink. I feel like that's the one I use the most. It's always the one that runs out the most, which is kind of annoying, but that's that. So there's also yellow, which you can't really see super well, but there is a couple yellows in here. And for yellow, I have it as big events or plot twists. So this is anything that I feel like if I was doing a spoiler review or I wanted to kind of tell anyone like when there was going to be a plot twist, or like not necessarily what, because it's spoilers, but I kind of, so I can see like, oh, was there a decent bit of things that surprised me in this book? And I'll mark those. And sometimes those also kind of correlate to like bigger events. So if it's like a war scene or if it's a big battle, I'll kind of mark it as that too, just so I can kind of keep track of like when these big events happen. I feel like it's also a good way to kind of see if there's a lot of stuff happening in the plot. I notice if I have a lot of yellow tabs like sprinkled beneath, then usually that book kept me kind of more interested throughout the whole thing, versus like if there's like barely any, like was there anything big in this book? Obviously it depends on the genre. Like in a contemporary book, like maybe this wouldn't be as prevalent, but that's just how it is. Like I mentioned before, I have green tabs, and for me those represent important info or stuff to check back on in the future. Like I said, this is usually pretty important in series, and especially since I'm rereading the Mortal Instruments series right now, I haven't started retabbing any of them yet. This is especially a series where I would have a lot of green tabs, I feel like, because Cassandra Clare does a lot of nods to future books or future moments in future books in her previous books, or there's a lot of hints to future like reveals in these books, and I feel like that's really helpful, and I'd love to have tabs on that, especially since I'm doing live shows for these. Talked about it before, but I feel like having tabs for those moments is really, really important in series. Like I said before, like temporary standalones, like there's nothing to really look back on unless like there's some sort of hints at some sort of reveal or plot twist, but it's not very often. But like I said, green tabs, pretty rare honestly in books. I don't usually have a lot of them. I only have one in here, and let me see. Yeah, it's just like a foreshadowing sort of event, which like I said, it's great because you can always check back on like, oh, was this actually important, or is this like actually turned out to be nothing, or is it going to play into a future book? Really interesting. I feel like it's a really important tab to have, and I would highly recommend tabbing these moments if you don't already do so. And then another, I think the second most used after the romantic, is blue. So these are just favorite quotes I have. So sometimes it's romantic, sometimes I feel like they're just really good quotes that I'd like to go back on Goodreads after and kind of save, or I just want to remember. I feel like these are always fun. There's a few books I once again wish I would have done this better with, like especially Red, White, and Royal Blue, because there's so many good quotes in that book, and I feel like I don't remember half of them because I just went on Goodreads after and I was just like, I like all these quotes, but I'd love to see like where they fall in the book. But this is probably like my favorite thing that I'm tabbing, I think, because I feel like oftentimes I'm reading a book and I don't really pay attention to all the words that are being said, or like especially like how they're being worded. I kind of just read through them, and then afterwards when I go on Goodreads and I look at the quotes, I'm like, wow, this is such a great quote. I don't even remember reading it. So this is really great, especially if you're doing Goodreads reviews. I know it's pretty common to have like a quote that you thought was like pretty important to the plot or just particularly good in the beginning of your reviews. This is a great way to do that. So now, the last one I have is orange, which is problematic stuff or stuff I didn't like. There's only a few in here, and usually this is kind of not always like problematic, but it's usually what I use for trigger warnings. If there's any scene in a book that I feel like could be triggering to others, this is usually what I'll tab here, and I will put in my reviews or put trigger warning in my reviews or when I talk about it. But then this also can be stuff that I didn't really like, or maybe it's a quote that I thought was really cringy. So not always problematic or like particularly bad, but stuff that when I'm reading a book, I'm like, I kind of wish you didn't put that in here. So like in A Curse of Dark and Lonely, there's a scene where there's kind of almost child abuse or sexual assault of a child, and so I tab that and I make a point to talk about it when I talk about this book. Or sometimes this is just like when a character does something I really don't like, I'll also tab it there too, just to be able to further talk about things that I didn't like as well as things that I do like, because I feel like a lot of these tabs are mainly for stuff that I do like. So it's important for me, especially when I'm talking about like, oh, a book I really didn't like, or just kind of being more nuanced in how I talk about books, to include parts that I didn't like in the book. So that's how I tab my books. I think this is more rambly, but I thought it would be best to kind of just talk through how I tab my books, just for curiosity's sake, or just to give you some ideas of what you could possibly tab in your books. But yeah, that's how I tab my books. I'm also just really happy with like how they look, because like I said, these can get pretty messy, and here I will show you the hellscape that is A Court of Mist and Fury, because I go back sometimes and I tab more stuff, which has just caused it to be absolutely chaotic. Like, guys, I don't know what any of these tabs are for. Like, I don't even know. Like, I essentially tabbed this whole entire book. Like, it's great and all, but guys, like, I don't know what half of these tabs are. Like, I can't just go back and reread my tabs because I tabbed the whole book. I might as well just reread the whole book. So I'm excited to have gone from this to this. Granted, this is not like my favorite book of all time, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm excited to make more videos for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please comment down below any videos you'd like to see from me. It's kind of been a struggle right now because I'm trying to catch up with some reading, so I haven't been able to do any of the more like fun TBR videos that I plan on doing, but I'm still really excited about my reading. But I'm trying to come up with recommendation videos, or any sort of like tags or anything that you guys would be interested in seeing, or just anything about how I read, or like I said, I'm going to be doing a couple things with my bookshelves and my TBR and stuff, so I'm really excited for that. But let me know any other videos you'd like to see from me. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all of your support. Thank you so much for I think I'm at 2,800 subscribers, which is just insane to me. Thank you, and I will talk to you guys very, very soon. I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye!